on, we have Dr. Dipti Abhilasha. You can come, maybe we can set the projector up. So, Dipti is a well-known Odissi dancer in Switzerland, and she will be presenting an insight into the world of Odissi. She is a disciple of the late Guru Dr. Minati Mishra, the stalwart of Odissi dance. She also is a disciple of Guru Srimati Nandini Ishwar, a renowned Bharatanatyam artist from Mysore, and she trained with her for the first 16 years. Currently, Dipti trains under the tutelage of Dr. Rohini Dandavate. Sorry, pardon my pronunciation. And she has learned also folk art of, again, my friend Kamsale? Kamsale. I would like to know more about it. Kamsale from Kamsale Kumaraswamy. Puja Kunita, Pattada Kunita from Devaraja, Dolu Kunita from Madheshwara Swami, and East Indian folk dances from Guru Sri Valmiki Banerjee and Guru Srimati Nupur Chatterjee initiated her into Odissi. In Switzerland, she has been a judge for many international dance competitions worldwide, and she has performed extensively in Europe, India, UAE, and the United States. She's also really multifaceted with equal expertise in theater and yoga. So she has been a true Indian cultural ambassador living here in Switzerland for the last 19 years. And she also invites artists from India and organizes their performances and workshops in Switzerland. Every year, she also helps to alienate the tears and hunger of few long forgotten artists. And I've had the honor of attending a few of the programs she organized, and she does a really good job. So now let us learn more about Odissi, and I give the floor to Dipti.
Namaste, everybody. I'm so happy to be here in front of very familiar faces. Pranams to all the big gurus in the audience. We have very less number of people here, but each one of you have brushed my life quite significantly, and you've inspired me to a very big extent. Thank you very much, and I'm very delighted to be here. And remembering my guru, Padma Shri Dr. Minati Mishra, I would like to start with this little snippet on Odissi. Okay? Unlike the previous presentation, I have a lot on the slides, so please don't get lost with the words. And if you have any questions, let's make it quite an informal discussion. And I'm here to present what I know about this great art of Odissi. So today we will be looking at evolution of dance in Orissa with Mahari and Gotipua movement, and a little bit of exploration of Gita Govinda as the continuation of what Uttara performed, and how Odissi became one of the 8 classical dances, because it's quite recently identified, but not as recently as Satriya, but then a little bit after independence identified, and had its foot as classical dance. And then who was actually responsible for the revival of Odissi. And here you can see the beautiful picture of my guru, Dr. Minati Mishra. And this is a very rare picture from one of her movies, Arundhati. In olden days, also the movies had a very big, the classical dance was very big in movies, and this was from one of her movies where there was classical Odissi being performed. So Orissa, which is present-day Orissa, was before called Odra Desha, and it is as big as, say, England and Wales, for example, and in 14th century AD, it got its name as Orissa. So there were earliest Aryan settlers in this place, and what we find is the mention of these Odra people in the epics of Ramayana, Mahabharata, and Natya Shastra, and various other Puranas. They were primarily agriculturists. Actually, they are still very, very, substantial agriculturists in India, but they were also good in martial arts, which they mainly used for defense. Choda Gangadeva, he was the one who built the famous Jagannath temple in Puri. And Narasimha I, he was from the Ganga dynasty and he built Konark temple. So these are the two very famous temples of Orissa where you can find beautiful sculptures. And the art is itself influenced by both Indo-Aryan and Dravidian cultures because of the placement of Orissa as a state in the middle of north and south and to the east. So any performance of Odissi, what you see is actually very spiritually based, because spirituality from earlier days, you will see in my further slides as to the impact of different times and different ages on Odissi, but mostly always dance formed the expression of devotion, and it still stays, because in Odissi you see very less experimentation even as of today, because people, they tend to stick to what the great gurus have taught them, and that forms the expression of devotion. So now we go into evolution of dance in Orissa. First, we start from Jainism period in 2000 BC. So King Kharavela patronized art, and he was, if anybody have visited Orissa, then Udayagiri, Brahmagiri, Khandagiri, these caves are very famous for the depiction of art inside with the beautiful sculptures, and he was responsible for it. And then came Buddhism period in between 6th to 8th century, and here dance was the main vehicle of expressing spirituality. And here also, and this you can see with the carvings of gods and goddesses in Udayagiri, Lalitgiri, and Ratnagiri hills. So it's, if you go there, it's so beautiful, full of energy in all these stones. You know, the stones have so much energy. And then come the Tantrism period. So here you can see Yogini Pithas evidenced, which are also carved in the temples of Hirapur and Ranipur. So you can see the different names, and those come from different establishments of these religious and spiritual temples by different kings or rulers of those ages. And then comes Shaivism period between 4th and 12th century AD, where it was a very important period for dance, because Devadasis were dedicated to serve the gods through dance and music in Rajrani and Lingaraj temples. Even today, if you visit them, you can see beautiful carvings of the postures from these Devadasis. And then you have Vaishnavism period, 10th century onwards. So here, Anantavarma Chodagangadeva, he was the ruler who regularized the temple administration. You know, there were like about 36 different very important roles in the administration of temple, and Devadasis were one of the very important roles. So they got really a prominent position in the temple during that time. But then you see the accompanists were always men. So we have Veena, Mardala, and Pakhwaj players, and everybody was men, and Devadasis were normally always women, of course. So now we go a little bit into Maharis. So Maharis are the Devadasis of the temple. So here you see a very rare picture of Maharis from Puri temple, Jagannath Puri. And as I told you, they really symbolized grace and beauty and knowledge, and they were very respected during those days. And they had the ceremonial marriage with God. And how it was done, when the dancer was young, so there was a ceremony where the priest took a piece of cloth from the deity and they tied on the head of the dancer, and then she was treated ritualistically ready to become a Mahari or a Devadasi. And they were also good in the society, positioned quite well in the society with houses and allotted streets, and there were some special administrators or the officers who were appointed to make sure that these women lived safe in their houses, and also when they traveled on the street, etc. And there were several categorizations of Maharis. For example, Nachuni, they were the dancers, and Bhitara Gauni, so these were the women who were able to sing inside the temple, and Bahara Gaunis were always singing outside and they were not let inside the temples. And Gaudasanis were the Devadasis who were allowed to fan God. And then we have Patwaris, who were, dancing along the procession of the god. So these people had these roles designated. Maharis were, of course, forbidden to be attracted to men or to enjoy the company of men, because they were really expected to have the connection entirely with God. And how it was done, after like a purifying bath, then they would enter the temple, and then there would be Rajguru, who would be the main person who would bless these Maharis, and then they would go and start whatever their duties would be. And mainly the Bhitara Gaunis or the Nachunis, so they always had a great prominence in the temples. So, and also during the performance, they were not allowed to look at the audience, because their dance strictly followed the Shastras, and they were supposed to be dancing only on certain talas, and then the Bhavabhinayas were also supposed to be from Gita Govinda. And there were morning offerings of pure dance. So morning offerings were never abhinayas, so they were nritta based, and then the evening or the bedtime offering was mainly the expressional pieces from Gita Govinda. So Mahari movement flourished from 10th to 13th century, and then there was a gradual decline because of the Muslim invasion and the political disturbances, and the services completely stopped in the 18th century, but still the Gazette of Orissa in 1955 published about 11 Maharis who are still in Orissa, but by the end of 80s, then it was only 2 of them, and right now it's only 1 Mahari who is living, so it's impossible to regain this tradition of Maharis. So as a continuity to the Mahari tradition came the Gotipua tradition. So how did it come? So who are Gotipuas? They are the little boys who are dressed as women, and they dance in festivals, but they're never allowed to dance inside the temples. So they dance in the festivals and in affluent houses and village clubs. And why did it start? So because when the Gotipua movement was there, then that was the time of Vaishnavism, where they did not approve women to actually dance, and that was the time when also Vaishnavism wanted or considered dance as the main vehicle of spreading the spiritual movement. And that's the reason why Chaitanya, or there is also Ramananda Ray, and these people, cultivated this Gotipua movement, and then they also widened it across the different places in Orissa. And some of the most famous gurus of Odissi, or modern Odissi, so they were actually Gotipuas when they were younger. And it is still a popular folk dance in Orissa. And Bandha Nritya, the acrobatic poses, when you see sometimes in Odissi, is also an outcome of Gotipua dance. So next we go to Gita Govinda. I think it was a beautiful introduction by Uttara. So here we know that it's the exploration of divine love and romance. And why I had to take it up is, most or the Ashtapadis in Odissi is all based on Gita Govinda, and the composer Jayadeva, who was the son of Bhojadeva and Ramadevi. He is also from Odisha, and he was born in Kendubilva, which was a predominantly Brahmin village. And he, it seems, was also a scholar of dance, and he taught the lyrics to his wife Padmavati. Those were the lyrics of Gita Govinda, and she was a Devadasi and an accomplished dancer. So here we think a little bit about how a Devadasi actually got married to Jayadeva, but then I thought that maybe it was against the will of the temple, but there was another book which said that there was a priest who actually requested Jayadeva to get married to Padmavati. So it was considered good by the temple, which was not very common, it's very rare. So as you all know, Gita Govinda recounts the love story between Krishna, Paramatma, and Radha Jivatma. And she is the embodiment of love and devotion. And it's not only Radha is actually one figure who is representing hundreds of gopikas. So you have like all the feelings and the explanations which are explained in the 24 songs presented in 12 chapters. But we shouldn't consider that it's only Radha, but then it's the representation of gopikas, devotion to Krishna. And this also accentuates the concept of Ashtanayaka, because here you can see the different situations of Radha or Gopika, in love, how she finds herself in these different situations. Continuing with Gita Govinda, I would like to say that how Gita Govinda, coming from Jayadeva in Orissa, had an influence on different states of India. So in Orissa, of course, it's virtually, Odissi dance and music, they are based on the compositions of Jayadeva. And in Manipur and Assam, also in dance and singing, because Manipuri is also a dance based on Krishna, and they have a lot of verses from Gita Govinda. And in Bengal, due to Chaitanya's movement of Vaishnavism, so Gita Govinda was a means of translation of spirituality into common man. And in Andhra Pradesh, you have a lot of Kuchipudi compositions based on Gita Govinda. And in Tamil Nadu, of course, Carnatic music and Tanjore paintings represent to a very big extent the writings of Jayadeva. And in Kerala, Sopana Sangeetam was actually, there is a tradition of devotees sitting on the temple stairs and singing the verses of Gita Govinda, and this was actually born in Kerala. And also Mohiniyattam, you have several verses from Gita Govinda. In Karnataka, it's inspiring Yakshagana. And in Maharashtra and Gujarat, also Bhakti movement was highly inspired by Jayadeva's work. And in the other places of India, you can always find the translations of Gita Govinda, which is written in Sanskrit, to Prakrit and other local languages. Okay, so Odissi. The dance form itself, I here remember my guru so much because, I danced Bharatanatyam, but then when I danced Odissi, I felt that, it is in my body. So it was kind of like you need that grace and you need that sensuality somehow to dance Odissi. You should have seen my guru, even when she walked, it looked like she was doing some charis or she was, dancing, even when just by her, I get goosebumps when I think about it. But then it's a very beautiful dance form, and there are several texts which we follow. Also Bharata's Natya Shastra, together with that there is Abhinaya Chandrika, which is one of the foremost texts of Odissi, and from 15th century, and there Odissi was called as Odra Nritya. And the texts also include, nowadays it's more Abhinaya Darpana, but then here you can see also other texts which were used in the past. And the dance itself is a combination of very sculpturesque poses and the bhangis, Samabhanga, Abhanga, Tribhanga, and Chauka, and Abhinaya. So, in view of time, I'm not demonstrating or showing you all this, but then later if we have some questions, I'm always ready for that. And then predominantly Alasya style, of course, Odissi also has the elements of Tandava. And here you can see a beautiful picture from the temple of Puri. So Odissi, it's not only Jayadeva's Ashtapadis. We also have depiction of stories from Dashavatara, and we have Ganesh Vandana, and the poems on Jagannath and Neelakantha, and we also have Kalidasa's poetry, which are translated into dances in Odissi. The form is actually graceful, but it has both nritta, the pure dance, and nritya, the abhinaya, imperative dance. And the theme of Odissi is, of course, as I mentioned earlier, it's very spiritual and devotional, so very less chance for experimentation. How is a repertoire? So repertoire normally consists of, it begins with Mangalacharan, and then we have Sthai. And Mangalacharan and Sthai are more the Nritta part, or a little bit in between Mangalacharan you have sometimes an Abhinaya part of Odissi. And then you have Pallavi, and Abhinaya is mostly from Gita Govinda, and then Moksha, Moksha can be compared to Tilana of Bharatanatyam. And this forms the whole repertoire. And then we have, oh, how beautiful they look, isn't it? They are the Maharis of the temple of Puri. Again, a very, very rare picture. And what instruments you use? So instead of mridangam, we use mardala or pakawach. And then we use gini, it is a cymbal, and then we use flute or violin and or sitar. And these are accompanied with the song or the music which is sung in Sanskrit or in Odia language, and usually the singer plays the harmonium. The costumes and ornaments. The costumes are mostly handloom saris, the Sambalpuri saris from Orissa, something like this, which is stitched into a costume. And then the ornaments are all in silver, which is a little bit different than the other classical dances of India. And the main ornaments are characterized also by Bengopatya, which is, you see the belt on the waist, and then the pith flower decoration on the head. So, as I mentioned earlier, Odissi only got its prominence or recognition post-independence, when most of the other Indian classical dances already had quite a foot in the classical dance world of India or the map. And these are the eminent gurus who were responsible for the revival of Odissi, and any guru whom you see today or any dancer whom you see today comes from the lineage of one of these gurus. Here you see Pankaj Charan Das, Kelucharan Mahapatra, and Dev-Prasad Das, and Mayadhar Raut. So these four people, together with Dhirendranath Patnaik, so he was a very big scholar of Odissi, and they formed an association called Jayantika in 1957. I'm very glad to hear these things directly from my guru, because she was a part of this movement. And my guru, Minati Mishra and Sanjukta Panigrahi, they were sent to learn Bharatnatyam, and Mayadhar Raut to learn Kathakali at Kalakshetra in Chennai. And why? Mainly to understand the curriculum and how to establish dance as a curriculum and studies in the universities. And they did a great job, because when they came back to Orissa, then they really established or wrote the whole books and the syllabuses for which are the basis of present-day Odissi. So I think I have spoken a lot, and next we will see some references. A big reference to my talk today was Dhirendranath Patnaik's work, and then Sharmila Biswasji's work, and of course Museum Rietberg did recently last year an exhibition on Gita Govinda, and I also took some snippets from that one. Thank you very much. I wanted to show you the bhangis. So, I can come here, it's okay. You can see me, right? All right. Okay. So, when you stand straight, then it is sama, of course. So, this is also called samabhanga or bhangi in Odissi. And when you slightly bend one knee, push your hip on one side, and then you're looking on one side, abhanga. And then you go for the three different bends, three bhanga, and then you have chauka. And chauka is actually all the nritta items are normally danced in chauka, but then you use the different bhangis for abhinaya and depiction of, but then it's all like in the borders of these postures.
So the second session, we will start with Sujata Venkateshi and Laetitia. She will be presenting the spirituality in a dancer's dance. And it's a very interesting topic already. Just to give a brief about the presenters. Sujata Venkatesh is not new to the dance scene in Geneva, Switzerland, which has been her work theatre for the last 3 decades. She's the founder and artistic director of Omkara School of Indian Dance in Geneva. She strongly believes that dance is the ultimate form of expression, one that transcends race, culture, and religion. In the spirit of sharing knowledge with no strings attached to conform social norms, Omkara is a home to students from varied backgrounds, culture, and walks of life who share their experiences of life and dance, grow together, and dance together in an atmosphere of complete harmony enriched with spiritual and cultural diversity. She gave me a big biography, but this really stood out to me because I think this is how every dance school is and should be. And I'm glad that you have a dance school like that in Geneva. Laetitia started Bharatanatyam in Chennai in 2009 and continued her apprenticeship under the tutelage of several gurus, including Sri Vasant Kumar at the Sri Rajeshwari Bharatanatyam Kala Mandir in Bombay, and Malavika Klein, a pioneer of Bharatanatyam in France, based in Paris. In February 2016, she presented her Arangetram at Mysore Association Auditorium in Bombay. Laetitia has been dancing the last 5 years under the guidance of Ms. Sujata Venkatesh. She is now based in Montreal. And she has come all the way from Montreal last week, today, yesterday? A few months ago, okay. And we are glad that she's here. So she joined Swiss Natya Sabha last year and she said, oh, now I've got a position in Montreal, I have to move, can I still be part of your Sabha? And then just 2 weeks back, she messages saying, oh, she's also going to perform. I'm like, wow, she's back already to perform here. So I'm happy to have both of them present the work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gurubhyo Namaha. My namaskarams to all of you, senior gurus, performers, rasikas. So today's talk is about spirituality in a dancer's dance. As dancers, we all know that our dances are steeped in the bhakti or devotion. This connection with the supreme or the higher energy is a connect that happens not only in dance but much earlier. Thank you. Much earlier as a child, especially for those of us who have grown up in India. But it's a constant that remains in your lives, not only as dancers, performers, or teachers, but in all the various roles that you take on in life. As dancers, we look for beauty, goodness, and positivity in everything that we do or see. We execute our duties with passion, precision, and good intent so that all the others may also enjoy the end product. This, of course, becomes sometimes a problem. I still remember my teacher, what he used to say, Professor U.S. Krishna Rao. Whenever we went for a show, he would say, please go and bring back some positive feedback, not the negative ones. So that was food for thought for us already as young, teenagers. This aesthetic aspect permeates into everything we do. Growing up in India, we have enough opportunities to feel the presence of God. Numerous festivals, celebrating the various gods, visits to the temple, celebrations to mark the various stages in life. So you can express your devotion. But yes, young children this God devotion is forced upon you. What do you know as a young child what it is? It is something you're told to have. You're told to participate in certain rituals, go to temples, conduct yourself in a particular way in place of worship, respect your elders, honor your gurus. What is this relationship short of fear? That is devotion towards God. This fear is instilled in you by your elders, that you will be punished if you disobey. But that's the first connect with that higher energy that we call God. Stories of their heroic deeds, manifestations, super magnificent manifestations to suppress evil in fierce battles. Compassion for the devotee and the needy. You're in awe of their superpowers. And hope that they will also protect and guide you. Your prayers are more for self-assurance that you're doing the right thing by befriending God. So at this stage, God is more a friend. The fear is gone. As you grow up, your failures and successes define your future. So you want God to look out for you. You look for courage and strength in that initial relationship with God. As a young adult, you get caught up in a fast-paced world where it's a perpetual struggle in the pursuit of perceived definition of success. Our minds and bodies are occupied with various occupations at a very surface level. Being busy is an obvious choice to satisfy or please our material and intellectual needs. Constantly trying to please everyone and trying to fit into the social norm, we do a lot of harm to our physical and mental health, let alone our spiritual advancement. The quest for knowing or understanding or even being spiritual is not a need or a necessity in our busy lives. When you start questioning this relationship and your connect, you start your own journey in the discovery of spirituality. As we have seen in our mythological stories, the desperate need for God or His grace comes only in times of great pain, loss, or loneliness. And this is true in our lives too. Our senses are so outwardly stimulated and engaged by our material gains that to look inwards, one would need a great deal of time, willingness, and patience, all of which are not part of our thought processes in our busy lives. How does one approach spirituality or this connect with the higher energy? Is it worthwhile to explore the different portals that facilitate the transition? This must be, of course, an individual's choice. We do need to be guided or need a tool that will help us in this transition. First of all, spirituality is hard to define or operationalize. It is the deepest of values by which you live, your place in this world, the respect you have towards all the other living beings, and your connect with nature or the universe. Knowledge of religious beliefs, rituals, customs, culture, stories, rules to living life are all passed through the family as a process of osmosis. But it's important to have rationality in the belief that you practice or follow, to form your own belief system that will be more conducive to the world you live in. But in this pursuit, many of us lose the values we have learned. Sometimes it's our own inhibitions that don't allow us to practice our beliefs. In the world we live today, we need to have a great deal of tolerance, kindness, compassion, and empathy towards all living beings to make sense of this cosmic energy. These emotions allow the mind to progress towards the respect we owe to ourselves and to all others, and this in turn helps us to reach out for this connection. After all, we are all God's creation. In life, we go through many experiences, some bad, some good. We have all experienced the lowliest of emotions to the more blissful ones, happy ones. These experiences can be sensory, emotional, psychological, or physical, which brings a reaction, or we relive those emotions through our memories. As dancers, these experiences are our palette from which we draw inspiration or reference to color the narrative in our dances. This connection with the Supreme happens at many levels and in many ways. For example, at a sensory level, for those of us who have grown up in India or have lived in India for some time, going to the temple is a very special event. You dress in your fine clothes, bearing fruits and flowers. You go to the temple, and your first footstep on that cold stone slab of the Gopura, the main entrance, something happens. Your body and mind syncs together. You develop a certain body language, certain gestural language that is very conducive to that bhakti rasa. The smell of incense, fragrant flowers, music, flames of those lamps burning inside the temple, the bells ringing, all evoke the rasa of devotion. It's palpable in the temple premises, as each one of those devotees are there for the same goal, for the grace of God, to seek His blessings. So praying to all the ancillary gods in the outer parikrama, you enter the main sanctum and you look into the eyes of the God and say a silent prayer, asking Him to bless you and your family and grant you all your wishes. As selfish as it may be, this thought, it's a very important step for a devotee, for that connect, because here he is beginning to trust in God, that he will be looked after, he will be granted his wishes. The dancer does very much the same thing. She enters the stage, dressed well in fine silks, bejeweled with flowers in her hair, flowers in her hand. She enters the stage and goes around paying her respects to all the gods, even inviting them to come and witness the divine performance before her final offering to Lord Nataraja, the dance of God. This procedure that is done in Purvaranga, known as Ahvahana, calling the gods onto stage, or in a shorter version that is Pushpanjali these days, it stresses on the sacredness of the art and its divine connection. The first step towards the sacred expression of Bhakti Shringara, or love for God. The jewels of the dancer works towards energizing the chakras, or awakening them for the dancer to transcend. So like in Kathakali, when the dancer is preparing for his performance, he lies on the ground and goes into a meditative mode to incarnate that God in him while his makeup. It's a long, drawn process. In the same manner, this connect or the awakening of the chakras for transcending happens much before you come on stage. The belt putting pressure on the Manipura chakra, the padakas or the pendants of your necklace on your Anahata and Vidusha. Then you have the Neti Chuti close to the Agnya chakra, the Surya and Chandra representing the Ida and Pingala. Your Jade or the plait with its ornaments hangs down your spine, representing the Sushmana Nadi, around which the Ida and Pingala go around in a helical fashion to end in the Agnya chakra. And finally, the Rakudi as the Sahasra chakra. The bangles on the wrists and the bells on your ankles vibrate, and this vibrational energy also helps in activating these chakras. Indian arts are known to be good for both physical and mental as well as spiritual health. Can dance be the channel or medium to bridge this gap between the finite material and the infinite supreme? Yes, because it's a transcendental art. If yoga lays a pathway through introspection, the arts lay a pathway to this union through the experience of the art. As a dancer, through your dance, you have the responsibility to draw in your audience, to open that pathway to the audience. So to experience this through your art as you draw them into your divine space. So you have to bring them into your divine space. So that's your duty. It goes without doubt that the body is the temple and dance the prayer. The flesh or body, which is considered as an enemy for spiritual advancement or realization, has been made the divine vehicle to achieve this through dance. Beautiful and a creative way to go about it, but without negating anything in this world. We are made of positive and negative energies, but they all come together in a peaceful manner with one goal, uniting with the cosmic energy through dance. I have taken some references to the tantric philosophy where there's tantra, yantra, tantra, and mantra. So if you look at the dancer's body as a yantra or visual tool that makes mathematically precise patterns of geometrical shapes with body movements within an outer boundary. These movements, which are triangles, circles, squares, etc., are energized through the energies flowing through them and in the space, marking the space for contemplation, where the mind focuses on these energies and forgets the routine, mundane life. Space becomes timeless, much like the geometric energized shapes in a mandala. You're completely absorbed in the action, unhindered by thought, where the gross and subtle bodies start to merge. Tantra comes from the root word tan in Sanskrit, meaning to compose or weave. Tantra is structural rules, procedure or knowledge in a field, or a practice or routine practice, and sadhana in dance applies here. The precise gestures or mudras which channelize the energies, rhythmic footwork, head, eye, and neck movements, constantly interacting with the music, symmetrical in every way, bringing harmony and balance to both body and mind. This disciplined practice locks you in the rhythm and teaches you patience to arrive or to achieve that precision. And while that is going on, you learn to listen. You look inwards towards your conscious, that which we believe is part of the cosmic energy. A saying from Adi Shankaracharya, Chidananda Rupa Shivoham Shivoham. This allows the dancer to see God through her or his own eyes and allow the audience to see God through the eyes of the dancer. Mantra, Sholukatu, that the dancer learns to practice, functions as mantra, repetitive, changing in vibration and energies, signifying meter and pause, bringing an alignment with the divine. It is a known fact that sound vibrations have healing properties for the different faculties of the human body, for better health and better spirituality. The Sholukatus, spiritual songs, prayers, whatever that we use, the classical songs, which are all vibrational energies, aid the dancer to transcend. Dance is bhakti yoga. The mudras are not only for external expression or communication, but also for internal communication. Everything we do in the pursuit of dance, in dance, sets a path for spiritual advancement. This is my belief. There's no stereotyping here, so each one has their own methodology to approach this. I believe that the energies permeate through the different layers, the pinda, the cellular layer, the koshas, the energy layers. And we follow the same 8 limbs as in yoga, from niyama to samadhi, which is ananda, or the rasa anubhava, which I experienced when Uttara danced today. I was completely absorbed in her very fine expression and neat gestures. A blissful aesthetic experience where you're completely in the moment. I does not exist. This is ananda. It is the experience in life that allow you for dramatization of this narrative and the expression of rasa. For this to happen, one needs to find space within oneself. And that means you have to exercise vairagya, or a withdrawal of the senses from the outside, so that you're completely within you and with your tasks. To enjoy this sensual pleasure through dance is what is ananda. To dissolve in blissful happiness in the dance is the ultimate surrender to the Almighty, which is what I believe. We have the unique privilege as dancers to identify with this energy. God is a close friend, a naughty child, a playful lover, supportive companion, noble husband, great teacher. This intimate relationship is what makes way for that connect. As a dancer, or for that matter anyone, you can call him the divine, the supreme, ultimate cosmic energy, the great power, the one. By any name you want, but the one permeates into many, rupa and nama. You have to have faith in yourself and in your pursuit to achieve anything. Just like an ardent devotee who prays to God for protection and is given that protection when he ultimately surrenders himself. Sharing something I read, our Vedic rishis who were endowed with passion for the truth, ananda, and welfare of all beings, thought of the world as one family, and devotion for the welfare of all beings, loka samasta sukhino bhavatu. Peace, good health, and joy for the entire universe. As dancers, we can be the greatest ambassadors of this thought as we dance for joy and spread joy for the well-being of all. My journey in spirituality is very new, I should say, because there's a lot to learn. I have only scratched the surface, so hopefully I've aroused some curiosities, and we will hear more about this. So Laetitia is joining me today in this presentation to demonstrate a few of those elements that I spoke about. Nritta as Tantra, and a Sanchari bit where the ritualistic approach to unite with the Supreme is expressed. I have taken a small bit from the Varnam Devadi Deva Nataraja, a composition by Veene Sheshayar in Raga Shanmukha Priya and Tala Adi, after which she will do a dance to show how faith, strong faith and belief that God exists can bring you that connect and bring you His grace, in a Kannada pada called Bagilanu Teredu, a composition by Saint Kanakadasa in Raga Mishra Hindola and Tala Mishra Chapu. The first dance bit was choreographed by my teacher Guru Narmada, and the second one is a choreography by myself. So I'll let you enjoy her dance. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Dalanku taka dikku taka ta dingina tom ta dana dana ta junnu ta dimi ta kitta taka dana ta junnu ta dimi ta kitta taka ta di taka taka dom ta dana dana ta junnu ta dimi ta kitta taka dana ta junnu ta dimi ta kitta taka ta di taka taka dom ta dana dana ta junnu ta dimi ta kitta taka dana ta junnu ta dimi Tadari, tadanda, tajun, tadim. Tat, 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 தண்ண தண்ணத்த ஜொண்ணு தத்திமி தக்கிட்ட தக்க தண்ணத்த ஜொண்ணு தத்திமி தக்கிட்ட தக்க ததரி ததன் தஜொண்ணு தத்திமி ததரி ததன் தஜொண்ணு தத்திமி ததரி ததன் தஜொண்ணு தத்திமி தக்க தத்திங் கிண்ணத்தும் தத்திங் கிண்ணத்தும் தத்திங் கிண்ணத்தும் ததன தனத்த ஜொண்ணு தத்திமி தக்கிட்ட தக்க ததரி ததன் தஜொண்ணு தத்திமி தாம் தாம் ததன தனத்த ஜொண்ணு தத்திமி தக்கிட்ட தக்க ததரி ததன் தஜொண்ணு தத்திமி தாம் தாம் ததன தனத்த ஜொண்ணு தத தத்திமி திமி தத கிட்ட தத ததனத்த தஜொண்ணுத்த தத்திமித்த தரி தக்க தத்தித் கிடதக தரிகிடதும் ததனத்த தஜொண்ணுத்த தத்திமித்த தரி தக்க தத்தித் கிடதக தரிகிடதும் ததனத்த தஜொண்ணுத்த தத்திமித்த தரி தக்க தத்தித் கிடதக தரிகிடதும்
தேவாதி தேவநட்டராஜ தில்லையில் குஞ்சித பதமுடன் நாடும் சீதம்பரநாதனே கனக சபேஷனே ஜெகதீஷனே ஹரனே சீதம்பரநாதனே கனக சபேஷனே ஜெகதீஷனே ஹரனே சிதம்பரநாதனே கனக சபேஷனே ஜெகதீஷனே ஹரனே சிதம்பரநாதனே கனக சபேஷனே ஜெகதீஷனே ஹரனே சிதம்பரநாதனே சிதம்பரநாதனே கனக சபேஷனே ஜெகதீஷனே ஹரனே சிதம்பரநாதனே கனக சபேஷனே
தள்ளம் குதக்க திக்கு தக்க ததிங்கிண்ணத்தோ தா குதண்ணி குதண்ணி குதரே குதஜம் தஜ்ஜம் தஜ்ஜம் தக்க தக்க தஜ்ஜம் தக்குந்தரி கிட்ட தக்க தா குதண்ணி குதண்ணி குதரே குதஜம் தஜ்ஜம் தஜ்ஜம் தக்க தக்க தஜ்ஜம் தக்குந்தரி கிட்ட தக்க தா குதண்ணக்கு தஜ்ஜம் தத்தக்குதண்ணக்கு தஜ்ஜம் குதண்ணக்கு தண்ணக்கு கிண்ணக்கு தண்ணக்கு கிண்ணக்கு ஜொண்ணுக்கு டிடிக்கு தக்குந்த ரிக்கிட்ட தக்கதா குதண்ணக்கு தஜ்ஜம் தத்தக்கு தண்ணக்கு தஜ்ஜம் குதண்ணக்கு தண்ணக்கு கிண்ணக்கு ஜொண்ணுக்கு டிடிக்கு தக்குந்த ரிக்கிட்ட தக்கதா குதண்ணக்கு தஜ்ஜம் கிட்ட தக்க தத்தக்கு தண்ணக்கு ஜஜ்ஜம் கிட்ட தக்கதா குதண்ணக்கு தஜ்ஜம் கிட்ட தக்க தத்தக்கு தண்ணக்கு தஜ்ஜம் கிட்ட தக்கதா குதண்ணக்கு ஜம் கிண்ணக்கு ஜம் தத்தக்கு தண்ணக்கு ஜம் கிண்ணக்கு ஜம் தோம் த
ಕನಕ ಸಬೇಶನೆ ಜಗದೀಶನೆ ಹರನೆ ಭಾವಾದಿರಾಗ. ಹರಿಯೇ 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 ಬಾಗಿಲನು ತೆರೆದು ಸೇವೆಯನು ಕೊಡು ಹರಿಯೇ ಬಾಗಿಲನು ತೆರೆದು ಸೇವೆಯನು ಕೊಡು ಹರಿಯೇ ಬಾಗಿಲನು ತೆರೆದು ಸೇವೆಯನು ಕೊಡು ಹರಿಯೇ ಕೂಗಿದರು ಧ್ವನಿ ಕೇಳಲಿಲ್ಲವೇ ನರಹರಿಯೇ ಬಾಗಿಲನು ತೆರೆದು ಸೇವೆಯನು ಕೊಡು ಹರಿಯೇ ಕೂಗಿದರು ಧ್ವನಿ ಕೇಳಲಿಲ್ಲವೇ ನರಹರಿಗೆ ಬಾಗಿಲನು ತೆರೆದು ಸೇವೆಯನು ಕೊಡೋ ಹರಿಗೆ ಕೂಗಿದರು ಧ್ವನಿ ಕೇಳಲಿಲ್ಲವೇ ನರಹರಿಗೆ ಬಾಗಿಲನು ತೆರೆದು ಪರಮ ಪದದೊಳಗೆ ವಿಷಧರನ ತಲ್ಪದಲ್ಲಿ ನೀ ಸಿರಿ ಸಹಿತ ಕ್ಷೀರವಾರಿಧಿಯೊಳಿರಲು ಪರಮ ಪದದೊಳಗೆ ವಿಷಧರನ ತಲ್ಪದಲ್ಲಿ ನೀ ಸಿರಿ ಸಹಿತ ಕ್ಷೀರವಾರಿಧಿಯೊಳಿರಲು ಕರಿರಾಜ ಕಷ್ಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಆದಿಮೂಲ ಎಂದು ಕರಿರಾಜ ಕಷ್ಟದಲ್ಲಿ ಕಡುಕೋಪದಿಂ ಖಳನು ಖಡುಗವನೆ ಪಿಡಿದು ನಿನ್ನೊಡೆಯ ಎಲ್ಲಿಹನು ಎಂದು ನುಡಿಯೇ ಕಡುಕೋಪದಿಂ ಖಳನು ಖಡುಗವನೆ ಪಿಡಿದು ನಿನ್ನೊಡೆಯ ಎಲ್ಲಿಹನು ಎಂದು ನುಡಿಯೇ ನಾರಾಯಣ 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 ದೃಢಭಕುತಿಯಲಿ ಶಿಶುವು ಬಿಡದೆ ನಿನ್ನನು ಭಜಿಸೆ ಸಡಗರದಿ ಸ್ತಂಭದಿಂದೊಡೆದೆ ನರಹರಿಗೆ ಸಡಗರದಿ ಸ್ತಂಭದಿಂದೊಡೆದೆ ನರಹರಿಗೆ ಸಡಗರದಿ ಸ್ತಂಭದಿಂದೊಡೆದೆ ನರಹರಿಗೆ ಬಾಗಿಲನು ತೆರೆದು ಸೇವೆಯನು ಕೊಡೋ ಹರಿಗೆ ಕೂಗಿದರು ಧ್ವನಿ ಕೇಳಲಿಲ್ಲವೇ ನರಹರಿಗೆ ಬಾಗಿಲನು ತೆರೆದು ಯಮಸುತನ ರಾಣಿಗೆ ಅಕ್ಷಯವಸನವಾಯಿತೆ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಜಮಿಳನ ಪೊರೆದೆ ಯಮಸುತನ ರಾಣಿಗೆ ಅಕ್ಷಯವಸನವಾಯಿತೆ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಜಮಿಳನ ಪೊರೆದೆ ಸಮಯ ಸಮಯವುಂಟೆ ಭಕ್ತವತ್ಸಲ ನಿನಗೆ ಸಮಯ ಸಮಯವುಂಟೆ ಭಕ್ತವತ್ಸಲ ನಿನಗೆ ಕಮಲಾಕ್ಷ ಕಾಗಿ ನೆಲೆಯಾದಿ ಕೇಶವನೇ ಕಮಲಾಕ್ಷ ಕಾಗಿ ನೆಲೆಯಾದಿ ಕೇಶವನೇ ಬಾಗಿಲನು ತೆರೆದು ಸೇವೆಯನು ಕೊಡೋ ಹರಿಗೆ ಕೂಗಿದರು ಧ್ವನಿ ಕೇಳಲಿಲ್ಲವೇ ನರಹರಿಗೆ ಬಾಗಿಲನು ತೆರೆದು ಬಾಗಿಲನು ತೆರೆದು ಬಾಗಿಲನು ತೆರೆದು ಸೇವೆಯನು ಕೊಡೋ ಹರಿಯೇ
I hope you enjoyed the performance and got the message from both the presentations. Before I conclude and Laetitia concludes, I'd like to say a big thank you to Swiss Natya Sabha, the founders, its members and its organizers for putting together such an amazing event where all artists have come, and it's a privilege to be immersed in the art today. So before I leave, Laetitia will say a few words about her own spiritual journey through dance. Thank you.
Namaskaram. So just to share a few reflections also about spirituality in dance, I would like to draw 2 points. The first one is that for me, I know that mostly we talk about spirituality in Abhinaya. Okay. So just a couple of thoughts also on the notion of spirituality in Bharatanatyam. So I'd like to touch on 2 notions. So the first one is that mostly when we speak about spirituality, we rather think about it in Abhinaya, but for me spirituality is also in the jatis. And so for example, I think this is very much the case when we do a Varnam, because we always very much imbibed by also the previous Abhinaya section. So for example, in the part that I demonstrated, I think the procession gives such an energy that in the next jati, I still am very much lifted by that. So I think it's not because we are just dancing pure abstract dance that we cannot also be spiritual, because in a way we are always looking for a better achievement, for this very strong sense of aesthetics, this perfection. So in that sense, I feel also in pure dance there's a very strong aspect of spirituality. And then maybe the other thought is more linked to the Bagila Leteridu, Deva Varnam in the second piece. Also in dance, I think very much we link spirituality with the manifestation of God. But also I think for me spirituality is also very much linked with the human experience. And although here the pilgrim is really searching for God, but I think this is also an illustration about resilience, our own resilience, or search for something, for an objective. And then when we achieve it, there's also really a beauty in that. So of course the first reading is finding God, but I think in this quest we're also finding ourselves, and so that is also to me as part of my spiritual journey. So those are the 2 thoughts I wanted to share with you. Thank you.